This episode of The Young Turks is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook at audiblepodcast.com/TYT.
President Obama's administration is not going to deliver on their promise of closing down Guantanamo. Now, of course, the president had said they would close it down within a year. That's obviously nowhere near true. We'd already told you a little while ago that Attorney General Eric Holder had hinted that Obama might close down Guantanamo Bay in his second term, if he gets a second term. But the latest news on it, of course, is that we will not be doing civilian trials for some of the people held at Guantanamo Bay, including Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the so-called mastermind behind 9/11. I say so-called because I don't like calling him a mastermind. It makes him sound more glorious than he is. Anyway, the master criminal, I don't know, the minor criminal, major criminal, anyway. So I've always thought that we should use the American justice system because I believe in it, and I don't want the terrorists to change our way of life. And so I say we move forward and charge them where the crime was, which is in New York. Now, Attorney General Holder agreed, and that's the path that they pursued. Now, to be fair to the Obama administration, there was an overwhelming vote against them, and it was at the end of last year. Now, there had been earlier movements by Congress to make it clear that they were not in favor of bringing people from Guantanamo to be tried here in the United States. But they attached a provision to the Defense Authorization Bill. That authorization bill passed 341 to 48 in the House. Now, look, it had the authorization for the entire defense budget, so it's not fair to say that that was the exact vote on Guantanamo. Well, who's the one who put it in the bill in the first place? It was a Democrat, Ike Skelton. Now, why did he do it? He did it to appease Republicans, but I don't really care. I mean, that's the problem with the Democratic Party. All they ever do is appease Republicans. So, President Obama, if he had his druthers, would have closed Guantanamo. If he had his druthers, he would have had civilian trials, federal criminal trials against these terrorists. And at the scene of the crime, he would have brought them to justice. But, given that he didn't have his druthers, as usual, President Obama decided not to fight. And he said basically to those guys, all right, I will use military commissions. He had already used them in a couple of other instances. He is now going to change it and use them in all of these Guantanamo cases. You can't win if you don't make your case. And that's what the president seems to be missing entirely. Yesterday we were talking about how President Obama has the demographics on his side. He's going to have a ton of money, etc. He's probably going to be running against a Republican lunatic. He's got so many different reasons why he can easily win in 2012. I think, obviously the economy is a major, huge issue. Where are jobs going to be at that time? Everybody gets that. But the second huge issue in the campaign that's working against President Obama is that he has this enormous reluctance to actually ever fight for his own side. Well, if you don't fight for your side, how do people know to vote for you? So that's why you're seeing no voter enthusiasm from the Democratic side. And that's what killed him in 2010, killed the Democrats. And so this is a perfect example of it. Here it goes. Yes, the Republicans were jerks. Yes, they demagogued. They fearmongered. They pretended that the terrorists were going to come over for your local barbecue if we brought them over to the United States. But, as usual, Democrats and President Obama buckled like they do every time. Can you remember a time when the president came out and said, look, I want to make my stand on this, and I don't care what the Republicans say. And even if first of all, that not going to happen. I know this level he would never, ever, ever do, but can you imagine if the president said, hey, you know what, on this one, I understand that the polling is against me, or it might be in New York, or it might be in the country, or whatever, but I want to change your mind, because I believe that's what leadership is about. And I'm going to do this thing, and I'm going to show you why we should care about the American justice system, why we should fight for it, why we shouldn't let the terrorists change our way of life. Inconceivable he would do that. Oh my God, there's conflict! Oh my God, run for the hills! And that's what's happened here. And they run to Gitmo, And, oh, Republicans are gloating. I don't even want to get into the quotes. We told you Gitmo was the way to go. We told you wouldn't close Guantanamo. And by the way, at the end of all of that capitulation, what does he get for it? Every single story talks about how Barack Obama failed on his promise to close Guantanamo Bay. They don't say, hey, the Republicans fearmonger. They don't say the Republicans did this or that. No, they laid on the footstep of Obama. And so how did that capitulation work out for you, President Obama? Did that work out for you? Like, did you get credit for it? No. Will you, please, at some point, fight?
Audible.com is the leading provider of audiobooks. They've got 75,000 different titles. A book I've always meant to read but didn't have time for is Guns, Germs, and Steel. What I'm going to do is I'm going to listen to it through Audible.com. Actually, if you're a Young Turks listener, you get a free audiobook at audiblepodcast.com/TYT.